offer my pranams to you. Professor Titteji, Yogacharya Ayengarji, Sri Ramanujaji, all the dignitaries in front of me. I was first thinking of speaking in Kannada, but since I see many disciples of Kulkarni ji in front who may not be able to understand Kannada, I thought I should speak in English. Yoga or Yoga Shastra has been there in India for a very, very long time. We have references to yoga by Muni Vasishtha. He talks about the Yoga Sutras, Yoga Vasishtha. You heard of it? Yajnavalkya, another great Smriti writer, has discussed regarding yoga. There are many references to yoga in Mahabharata. Mahabharata is our epic, renowned Indian epic, which contains eternal truth. It is supposed to be history which took place 2500 years ago, and the places where the war took place, Kurukshetra, which is near Delhi, has been identified today, and a suburb of Delhi, which is in the next state, Haryana, is called Dronacharya Pura, that is Gurugram. Gurugrama, the name was Gurugrama. Dronacharya was the Guruji of the Pandavas. This epic talks about so many things. The quarrels which the human beings used to have during those days, the pleasures and entertainment, the games they were having during those days, the spiritual practices they were having during those days, or the advice for good political governance, the advice for strategic management, all these are encompassed into a nutshell in that huge epic which contains more than 1 lakh slokas. A part of that epic is the famous Bhagavad Gita, which is supposed to have been told to Arjuna, his cousin, by Sri Krishna, the 8th avatar whom we recognize in our Hindu anthology. Well, yoga is thus referred to everywhere, and Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. Each chapter is called a yoga. That is the greatness of that part. It refers to Sankhya Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, all these things. I don't want to go into details of discussion because our Guruji here is going to speak about the Indian system. I don't want to dwell much upon it. But all said and done, the true practices of yoga for the common man were propounded by the great Rishi Patanjali. It was about 2000 years ago. There is a lot of dispute about his date. They say he lived in the 4th century AD. Some people say he lived during the 3rd century BC and all that. Anyway, it is true that the Patanjali Yoga Sutras are about 2000 years old. That book contains 4 parts. The 4 parts are Samadhi Yoga. It starts with Samadhi, the state of holding the mind stable. Of course, there are many definitions of Samadhi and all that. I am not a yogi. I don't define all those things. Samadhi, it begins with how to get the Samadhi state. In fact, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita Arjuna asked the question, Sita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhi tasya keshava stitadi kim prabhasheta kimasito vrajeta kim. In fact, about 10-12 slokas were recited by Lord Krishna in answer to Arjuna how to get that samadhi. One sloka I will tell for example. Dukyesh panupnityoha sukeshu vigatasviha vita ragavaya krodho stitadhir munirujyate. So a person who doesn't get perturbed when he is disturbed with several causes of worry, sorrow, and a person who doesn't get highly elated when he has cause to celebrate his happiness, a person who maintains the equanimity, the equilibrium of his mind is the person who attains that siddhi. Patanjali announced 4 different parts, as I said. Samadhi Yoga he started with. He has 51 statements. Each is a string, each is a sutra. Sutra means a thread. 51 sutras are there in the first part. The second part is called Sadhana Pada. In Sadhana Pada, he has enunciated 55 sutras. In the third part, Vibhuti Pada, he has enunciated 56 sutras. This Vibhuti, attaining the state of Vibhuti and many Vibhuti achievements have been described there. It talks about achieving supranormal power. So that is the sadhana one can get using the Vibhuti Yoga part of it. And finally, he talks about Kaivalya Pada. Kaivalya talks about the moksha, the ultimate salvation the soul can attain. Well, he has organized it in a way, but some of the yoga teachers whom I had met, they said one should start with sadhana, introductory sadhana, then go to Vibhuti to attain some powers. He has to come back to Vibhuti later to attain more powers. Then he should go to Samadhi, then finally to the Kaivalya state. So the order is somewhat different. And of course, this yoga system is called the Ashtanga yoga systems because it has 8 limbs: Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Pratyahara, and so on. I don't want to go into details. But one thing is definite, during the time of Panini, India was under the influence of the Buddhist religion. And Buddhists, basically they followed this Sankhya system. So you can see shades of this Sankhya system in Patanjali's yoga. This is one point I want to make. So Buddhism therefore had its own influence on the yoga shastras and yoga practices from the beginning. Now, I want to come to the book written by our Kulkarni ji, how it is different from the Patanjali yoga system. In fact, I went through a few reviews and I have read the book. As I said, I am a novice to yoga. As a layman, what I have felt, I would like to share with you a few thoughts on this book, because I am supposed to speak on this book. Well, this book is written mainly to achieve certain aims. One is yoga by many students elsewhere is mistaken. Many people think yoga means some physical postures, asanas, and all that. In fact, when I was in the United States over 40 years ago, many people used to ask me, "Sir, do you know yoga?" The moment they came to know that I was from India, they used to ask me, "Do you know yoga?" Many of them would pronounce it as J-O-G-A, yoga. Do you know yoga? In fact, all kinds of pronunciations, all kinds of aberrations have taken place. And the true purpose of the Indian yoga system has not been understood at all. Many people, seemingly so-called gurus, are trying to make money out of it. In fact, any Indian system which teaches a Shastra, this is a Shastra. Shastra means science. Science means learning principles which have reasoning, which have logic in it, which can be proven. Yoga Shastra is one such Shastra wherein the principles can be proven, can be experienced. That is the beauty of this. So, camouflaging this, most of the people thought, mistake it, yoga means some physical exercise, this, that. If I do this, this back pain will go away. If I do this, headache will go away. And there is another group of yogis called Hatha yogis. These people, they practice all kinds of things. For example, in Hatha yoga, one person, the first thing they teach is what's called neti. They take the thread in the nose, bring it from the mouth, they keep doing it. If you have cold and all that, you can remove any block, any cold, etc. And another system of neti is people drink water from the nose, from the nostrils, and all that. These are all mistaken identities of yoga. That is because somehow or the other, it was not properly projected or properly understood. I am not saying not all people, but quite a few in India are still there. Great yogacharyas like him or his guru, they are all there who have done it. But when the so-called teachers go out, they teach all kinds of things and misconceptions arise. In fact, what I found the first thing in Kulkarni's book was, he has tried his best to remove all misconceptions. This is the first good quality I found in the book. The second thing I found in the book is, it is very simple. The recitation of the sutras is very simple. Nobody else after Patanjali has given yoga in the form of sutra enunciation as Kulkarni has done. I went through it. It's really great. Another third point I noticed in the book is that he has combined physical, mental, spiritual, all these three aspects of practicing yoga and obtaining results can be integrated. He has stated it, and the integration can be between any two of them, or it can be all the three. He has not stressed much on the integration of the spiritual achievement or the Kaivalya Patha and all that. He has stopped. He has mentioned about them, what is possible he has mentioned, but the book does not go into those details of obtaining that ultimate salvation for the soul and all that. But as he claims in his book, the main purpose is very simple. How can I overcome my various difficulties? He talks about, for example, if one loses the memory, which are the sutras and which are the practices which helps him. If one has some aberrations in physical health, how can one do the practices to see that the body system is set right? So like this, he has described all these things in the 18 chapters. In fact, it was I don't know whether it's a coincidence or what. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. Kulkarni has written 18 chapters in his Adhiyoga. Now, coming to some aspects, I don't want to go into details. I will recite only one or two sutras here and there. Firstly, I will tell about the book starts with a Mangal. Then each chapter has sutras, but the sutras are written in simple English. Anybody can understand. No complicated terms. One good thing Kulkarni ji has done is, if we talk about this yoga, that, and all tough terms. It will be difficult for a common man like me, a common student like me, just a reader like me, an ordinary person like me to understand. What he has done is, he uses very simple English. Then one of his Gurujis, Dr. Tittesab, has helped him make it into the sutra in Sanskrit. Then another Guruji, Karvandikar, he has converted into the form of poems, shlokas. This is one beauty. Then after all these are given on one side, on the other side, Kulkarni gives his commentary. The commentary is in English, simple English. On each sutra, sometimes it may go up to 3 or 4 pages. I have cursorily gone through some of the commentaries. Some commentaries could be just half a page or 1 page. But the commentaries are pregnant with knowledge, with practice. The commentary contains quotations from the earlier gurus. He quotes from Sankhya Yoga, he quotes from Bhagavad Gita, he quotes from Patanjali, the master. He is very humble in claiming that it is his own system, but he has reorganized the entire learning given by Patanjali into a system which can be easily understood by the person of today, person of 21st century. Because today, human beings have their own various professions. They are busy. And when they are busy, they want to relax. They want their time to relax because tension develops. The tension that develops, the mental tension that develops, creates problems for them to do further work. This will later lead to physical tension and failure of both the mind as well as the physical health. So, practices like yoga will definitely help a person stabilize the mind, help him concentrate more on his profession by indulging in simple practices and learning the principles of yoga. In fact, what he has given to me looks like a simple textbook written by a person who has understood the yoga practice and delivers it in a simple language for anybody. He can be a learned man, he can be a layman like me. One can easily follow what he says. So the commentaries are very helpful. At the end of the commentaries on each sutra, he gives what is called a anubandha, a connection from one sutra to the next sutra. Because if I study this sutra, is it the end? What does the next sutra say? So he can easily move on from one sutra to the next sutra. That connection is also given. Now, I would like to tell you that there are 169 sutras given by Kulkarni in all these chapters. For sampling, I will read out the names of the chapters. The first chapter starts with, it is called Anandaha in Sanskrit, happiness. The second chapter is personal goal and course of action. Because nobody in the modern world will try to do anything without a purpose or a goal. So, what is the purpose? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? What is the purpose? How to form the purpose and all that. That's an important aspect. Then another chapter on the Adhiyoga system. The sutras in chapter 3 speak about it. Then the body, mind, spirit complex, which is system talks about, is given in chapter 4. Then the Paramatma, the Adhyatma of it, the Ishvara and Prakriti, the God and nature, what is the connectivity, what is the connection. Then he talks about how to achieve these purposes. Health or swasthyam is one chapter. Another chapter is fitness. Fitness is kshamatva, the capacity to do things. I should have the capacity or ability to do things. Then another thing talks about vishramaha, the rest, because in all yogic practices, rest is very important. In fact, many of our godheads, god images, in many temples, we see Ranganatha taking the yogic trance. You can see in Srirangapatna, Ranganathji taking the yogic trance with his concerts and blessing all of us. Well, then comes the chapter on exercise. What are the vyayama? What are the physical exercise? How to achieve the goal of the physical exercise? Then he talks about the yogic exercise, yoga exercises. That is called yoga vyavasayaha. Then he gives some concepts of physical yoga exercise in the Adhiyoga Sutras. He gives about 30 different concepts in that chapter. Then he gives another 11 concepts on pranayama or yogic breathing. In fact, one of the most important in the Ashtangas is pranayama, controlling the breathing. That breathing exercise, he devotes one full chapter. Then another thing is about meditation. Meditation is one of the paths to go into that samadhi sthiti. So, how one can do meditation, some simple concepts on the meditation exercises. Then some concepts on spiritual yoga practice are given in another chapter. He has given about 7-8 sutras on that. Then the most strange, and I felt I had not come across this kind of thing in any other book. I came across in the last 3 chapters. Chapter 16 talks about who should be a yoga teacher. What are the characteristics of a yoga teacher? Ultimately, a yogi wants to teach what knowledge he has with others. How can he teach? So for him to be teacher, what should he look for? What should the student of yoga look for in a teacher? Then in the 17th chapter, he speaks about the importance of yoga practice. And the final chapter, it is miscellany, a few things which occur to him. And finally, he closes the book with an epilogue, which is a very humble submission of the author. I want to quote only one from one chapter, what he has written as an example, and close at it. I can speak more, but I don't want to go into details because there are learned people and I am a person who does not know anything about yoga. Well, the chapter 1, Sutra 1, Ananda, he begins with an English sutra. The English sutra, see the simplicity. Each and every human being is by nature in search of happiness. Each and every human being has the natural instinct to feel happy. See the beautiful statement, such a simple statement. And the Sanskrit sutra says, Sarvepi manavaha prakritya sukhanveshinaha. The same thing mentioned briefly in Sanskrit. Then The Karika, the Sanskrit shloka reads like that. Anvishyanti sukham loke prakritya sarvamanavaha dukkha micchati no kaschit sarvasya sukham ipsitam. What a beautiful way of putting the same thing in the form of a shloka. Then he doesn't leave at that. He gives his commentary. While giving the commentary, drawing examples from day-to-day life. In fact, he quotes even the American Constitution, where he says, in the American Constitution talks about happiness. I don't want to go into those details, but how those fathers of United States, American, who wrote the Constitution, they said how important is this anand, this happiness. And he quotes for adding to his sutra from Sankhya, dukkha trayabhigata jignasa tadapi ghatake hetau. It is the same thing, but put in the Sankhya form. Then he quotes also the great master Patanjali, prakashas kriyas sthitishīlam bhutendriyatmakam bhoga pavargartham drishyam, he says. Patanjali says this in the second chapter. I just took one example at random just to say that Patanjali is wonderful, but it is a tough nut to crack for the ordinary person. He has simplified it, he has put it in a different order, the order in which, in the same way, the chapter on asanas talks about the order in which the asanas should be practiced. You cannot take a tough asana straight away and all that. So, I would say in all, it is a very beautifully written book, and he quotes Guru Smriti from that, remembering his gurus, his father, Patanjali, all gurus. One shloka I will say from Guru Smriti, Ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshur unmilita yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. My pranams to all the gurus. Thank you.
Bharatiya